There was just something about that song that normally it's a very kind of an introspective song, but something about the energy and kind of the moving on stage was really inspirational to me. Thank you. I think I needed it. Who said that? All right. Well, I am kind of continuing in the same thought as Pastor Donia, which he shared a couple weeks ago, Lessons Learned on the Path. We celebrated 8 years a couple weeks ago, and it's definitely been a time 8 years, in a way it's not a long time, but in a way it's a long time. And a lot of things have happened in 8 years, and a lot of things have happened both in our community, in our church, but also just in our personal lives. A lot of things have developed and changed and grown, and there's a lot to reflect on, and I think that we just kind of want to share some of those things. I just shared a couple of really great things last week. I wanted to share one lesson myself, but I also first wanted to just say thank you. When we had service 2 weeks ago, and there was this nice surprise congratulatory celebration for our 8 years. It was just very nice. It was very nice to just have everyone together like that and to celebrate together, and I guess some people also collected some money and some really nice words of encouragement and gratitude. So we just really appreciated it all, and we're very grateful. And I also just really want to acknowledge also that our council and our elders group, they, from what I understand, they kind of initiated this, organized it, did a lot of the communication and the work, and I'm really grateful for that too, because we didn't used to have an elders group, but we used to have a council, and the council that exists today is so different in the way of thinking and the mindset, and just focused on like, what can we do to help? What can we do to support? And it's just a really beautiful thing. It's very encouraging for the future, for sure. I wish that I could say that since we hit 8 years, now we can take a little bit of a break and relax a little bit and have a little bit of a breather, prepare for the next, couple of years or 8 years or whatever it is. But the last month and a half have been a little bit wild. And we haven't really spoken about it so much publicly, but I wanted to share a few things with you today just to kind of give a little bit of context around the message I'll be giving today. Some of you know, and some of you don't, but about 4 weeks ago, our van was shot with some couple bullets, and there's been quite a few disturbances. I don't know what the word is. Incidents in the neighborhood in the last year, or in the last year especially, but in the last couple months. And, accidents, shootings, attempted abductions, just crazy stuff. And, we've been here 8 years, and it's never been like this. Stuff would happen every once in a while, but it's been very unnerving. And I felt especially bad for like Eugene's family. They arrived, and oh my God, what is going on? And also our, everyone who lives over there, the CARP members and Anton's group and everything, has kind of had to deal with this unpleasant, uncomfortable reality of feeling like we're living in the ghetto. And I've been very steadfast in my insistence that we are in an up-and-coming neighborhood, right? Ever since we moved here 8 years ago, I'm like, it's getting better, gentrification and everything's getting better, it's getting safer. But then this year, I had to just be like, okay, yeah, it's not true. At least not this year. So, I reached out to the police, and I was like, there's got to be something we can do. Can we work together? Or can you guys just patrol more? Anything you can do? And I reached out to the Parks Department because one of the street lights wasn't working. All the incidents happening in this little parking area right here next to the park. Not our parking lot, but the one right there where a lot of you guys are probably parking right now. And they basically told me, well, we're short on staff, we're short on resources, we're short on morale, and it's probably going to get worse. That's what they told me. I was like, oh, great. It's just what I wanted to hear. And I have to admit, it was very discouraging because here we've been over the last year working really hard to renovate this building, to fix it up, to make it a really wonderful home for all the people who are coming here, and inviting people to come, like Sunduk and Christie's family. They just moved in last week, and the Ukrainian and the Ukrainian family moved in 2 weeks ago, and Surge's family living with us, which was right here too, and and then I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? I feel ashamed of myself, to have invited people to this situation, and also, I felt powerless. I felt like I can't. What am I going to do? Stand guard out there, 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't think that's a good idea. So it kind of was a really difficult place to be in. I also have somebody, I wouldn't necessarily call him a friend, but somebody I know who's in commercial real estate. And I said, hey, maybe this is a sign, But I don't know if it is, but just to be sure, can you take a look to see if there's any other kind of centrally located churches that might be a good fit for our community? Maybe, maybe a little bit bigger, or maybe it'd be nice to have more of if it was a school layout, or maybe had a gymnasium. But I said, I'm not picky, I just want to know what's out there. And, we looked at, the options. He said, there's never a lot of properties that fit your needs. And he was right. But we looked at what there was, and nothing really stuck out to me as, possibilities. Nothing really inspired me. So I kind of had to step back and really think, what are we going to do? Because I felt like I didn't have options. I didn't have a solution. I just had a problem, and I felt like I had no way to deal with the problem. I had no way to improve it. I had no way to fix it. But I had felt all this responsibility that we had these families in our care, and I had to do something. So it was a very difficult place to be in, and I think, a feeling that is kind of natural into having this situation is to kind of want to just run away. I think Adonia and I both considered, we could just move away. We could just find some place to live somewhere else and still be the pastors. But I didn't feel right about that either. We made so much effort already to bring families here, and it didn't feel right to just kind of abandon the place and then abandon those people. So these are kind of like pivotal moments. These kind of times in our life. And I'm describing something that maybe you have never personally had to deal with, this exact kind of a situation. But I think that many times in our life, we have this kind of a feeling. There's a very good word for it, and the word is despair. It's like a feeling of absolutely no hope. Like you don't know the way forward. You don't know how to solve the problem. It doesn't seem like there's any real solution. And that's a really difficult place to be in. But we kind of have a couple options. And when I sat down with that real estate agent and he showed me the options, and I realized there aren't really any good options. Like, I don't think this is God giving us a sign that we should try to find another place. This is just reality. This is just what it is. And I realized that the only option for us right now, short-term solution, is just to dig deeper, to look for a solution, even though there doesn't seem to be one that's obvious. And that's kind of the options that we have many times, to give in or to just dig in. I just came up with that. I like it. Give in or dig in. I'm gonna write that down. You forget things like this. And that is going to be the name of the sermon. I'll post it online. All right. But this, I think that even if you haven't gone through similar type of experience that I'm talking about, you have probably had some kind of an experience like this in your life, where you just have felt like you were at a dead end. You just felt like you didn't see a way forward. It could be just trying to find, happiness, just feeling like I'm never going to be happy, or feeling like I'm never going to overcome this thing that I'm dealing with in my life. It could be a mother or a father struggling to try to find a way to make ends meet for their family. It could be a couple losing hope in their marriage. It could be a child feeling like their parents will never understand them. It's a complete and utter loss of hope. And I think that all of you have experienced something like this in your life. And if you haven't, I feel you are blessed. You're truly a blessed person. But what a crazy world we live in, right? Where that is almost like a universal thing that ties us all together. We've all had that kind of experience. I don't think that that was God's original intention. But history is full of people who despaired at some point in their life. And we see it a lot also in the Bible. Even to God himself, when in Genesis he says, "And the Lord regretted that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart." And Jesus in Matthew, and Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And taking with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch with me." And going a little further, he fell on his face and prayed, saying, "My Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." And this is something from our founder. He said, "I'll tell you one thing very clearly. If there is a place to escape to and hide from this life, one clever person would have already done it, and that is me. I packed many times and tried to find a place to go and hide, but I found no place to go, so I unpacked again. You and I have a common destiny. Do not think you are in one group and I in another. No, we are in the same boat. However you think is precisely how I have been thinking." So similarly, we're all in the same boat in many more ways than we probably realize. And we share the same heart and feelings and experiences many of the people of the past. People who tried to do something meaningful with their life always ended up in this situation where they felt hopeless. Actually, but the entire Bible and divine principle, despite the fact that it's full of these kind of situations, is also full of hope. It's a story of hope, actually, fundamentally. Because even though there's moments of crisis, even though there's moments of difficulty, there's moments of not knowing how to go forward, in the end, there's always a way forward, and God is always with us. These books are a story of how God created us. The loving God created us in this world for a purpose, and that God will not give up on his plans and hopes for us. No matter how bad things might get, God has a plan and he is always with us. It's kind of the overarching theme, actually, that what the Bible tries to tell us at the end of the day. So we have to find a way to move beyond a situation where we don't see hope and try to discover new hope again. And based on experience and what I could kind of research also, I have a few points that I wanted to share about that point. Because sometimes we're in a difficult situation, it's hard to see a way forward. And it's just very helpful to maybe get a little couple pointers here and there. First one is that God is with you, and he is bigger than your problems. One thing that you see often in the Bible is that God is often encouraging his people. You know, we get discouraged. We get burdened with the weight of our responsibilities or with the obstacles that are in our path. And God is often telling his people things like, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Also from Isaiah, do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And from our true Father, he said, a wise person will place hope in the future and continue to move forward no matter how difficult it may be. A foolish person, on the other hand, will throw away his future for the sake of immediate happiness. I too at times held foolish thoughts when I was still very young, but in the end I chose the path of the wise person. I gladly offered up my life in order to pursue the way God desired. And then this is from Corinthians, 2 Corinthians. Therefore we do not lose heart, for our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweigh them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. So God is bigger than your problem, and God is with you. I think a lot of times when we lose hope, we think, God doesn't care. God abandoned me. God asked me to come this path, and then he left me. But I don't believe that that's true. Another thing that I thought would be helpful is to remember that you can change yourself or your way of thinking. 5 years ago, when we were celebrating our 3rd year anniversary of pastoring, we came into a really difficult situation. And it was similar, like we didn't know how to get past it. I'm not going to go into that today. But what came out of that circumstance was that we realized we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what we were doing much more than we don't know what we're doing now. And we needed to, because we came into pastoring because we felt a calling for it, but not because we had any education or experience or theological training or anything like that. We came in, we saw a need, we felt this was where God wanted us to be, and we took a leap of faith. But we weren't prepared by any means. We didn't know what we were doing. And that was the time when I really dug into, Rick Warren's Purpose-Driven Church and understanding how to restructure our church, our council, our finances, all these different things that we did at that time came about because we hit an impasse. And oftentimes, real change happens in those circumstances where we realize that what we're doing isn't working anymore. Real change happens when we realize that what I've been doing up until now is not enough. And you really have to dig deep to try to find newer purpose, newer motivation, and the resources to help get to wherever you're trying to go. And that was what we needed to do. In the end, what really changed at that time was us. We grew. We had to overcome some things. We had to gain knowledge. We had to seek for knowledge and understanding outside of our small community here. And that helped us to get to where we're at today. So perhaps we're going through something like that now, I don't know. But in a way, you can see it as a blessing. It was a blessing for us at that time, even though it felt quite awful in a lot of ways. But it showed that we could, if we changed ourselves, if we changed the way we did things, then actually other things could change too. Many times when we're stuck in a situation where we don't feel like there's any hope, it's because we feel like I can't change my circumstances. I can't change that person. And maybe you can't. I don't know. I don't know your situation. But I do know that you can change yourself. And I do know that you can grow. I can grow. And the last thing I wanted to say that I feel is valuable to rediscover hope is to rely on the help of others. So when we were going, the week of the van getting bullets in it, it's still in the shop, by the way, and something else happened that week too. I don't remember what it was. Same week, in the same week, two things happened that were very disturbing. And it happened to be that there was a council meeting that Sunday, and they were like, hey, how's things going? I'm like, well, let me tell you. I want to get out of here. It was an emotional week. But actually, that meeting was really refreshing because they asked, what can we do to help? Because, I had very kind of deadlines that were weighing on me heavily with trying to get the renovations done, and also just with the car and just the neighborhood situation and everything. And just being able to share that with them, just knowing that they have the intention, they want to help. They couldn't necessarily offer all the solutions, but Peggy came up with the idea that we should start a neighborhood watch program, and she's been working on it. And I thought, why not? That could work. And then they found people who could help with the renovations, and I kind of realized that that was a godsend in a lot of ways, because it's not easy to go outside and ask for help. But that kind of started us on the path of, hey, there are solutions. There is hope. There are things that we can try. There are things that we can do to make the situation better. So, and there are people who want to help. And so we started ordering some lights and security camera and signs for the garage over there facing the park. And we've got some other things that we're working on, and working on the neighborhood watch program. And it's kind of deceptive, because actually during the day the neighborhood seems quite fine, but it's at like 3 a.m. that crazy stuff happens. And I mean, I don't know where those people are coming from, but they're coming. They're not live right here. But it kind of all culminated on Friday when I was working on some stuff over there, and just out of nowhere, Eugene came out, and he's like, I'm going to clean up all the brush along the side of the garage, because if it looks nicer, then people will know that we care about this place. And then Ricky wanted to help too, and he came out, and you saw him sitting in the pile of trash, right? He's sitting there organizing the trash and putting it into bags, and we're getting all the trash out of there. And then John came out and he helped as well, and Dave Mahardy was working on organizing the garage, and this property has been neglected for so long. You wouldn't believe how much glass is everywhere, how many beer bottles and beer bottle caps, and it's just crazy, just the amount of that kind of thing is over there. And now it feels good to kind of reclaim it and be like, this isn't what we want. We want this to be a lot better, especially now we have, our family members living here, our church family. And it just happened on Friday. It just happened. I didn't organize it. It just happened. All these people came together and helped out. And, it's not like it's over, it's finished, it's better. But it's like it's a process going in the right direction. I felt really good about that. It was liberating to my heart because I could see like people coming together to try to make a situation better. And it's not just like me doing it, but everybody kind of like trying to make the situation better. And somehow my heart felt at peace, and I felt like we were moving in the right direction. So, like I said, the issues aren't necessarily fully resolved, but I have hope. I have hope that we can make it better. I have hope that even if this isn't the solution, like the end, that we can work together. Even our neighbor came out and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I saw you guys, cleaning up your back area, and I've been wanting to do that, and then he came out and just started doing it." And then I was like, "Hey, do you know the other neighbor?" He's like, "Yeah, I know that guy." And so, it's also kind of building some kind of relationships with other people in the neighborhood who, I think we all kind of feel the same way. Like, we don't like it, but, just by ourselves, we don't also feel like we can do anything about it. So maybe there's a lesson there. Maybe God is trying to teach us something in that way. Maybe God wants us, maybe God's trying to tell us not to be satisfied with just our group, but to expand our perspective. So anyway, just to recap, the main thing I wanted to say with all of this is that don't give up just because things might look bad in the moment. That's the main thing I wanted to share with this message. We're all going to hit points in our life where things feel and look bad. But don't give up just because things feel bad in the moment. I think that's really the point. If we give up, that's really the point where there is no hope. But if we have hope, and if we look for hope in others, and we remember that God is with us and that God has a plan for us, then there's always a way forward. We just have to find it. So that's my message today. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. Please join me in prayer. Dearest Heavenly Parent, we thank you so much for this gathering of brothers and sisters and beautiful children. We are grateful that we could gather in this place together this morning. Thank you for your presence, always in our lives, for always being there with us and for us, even though we may not notice many times. Heavenly Parent, if there's anybody here who is feeling discouraged or in despair at this time, I really pray, Heavenly Parent, that you can comfort them and help to find a path forward, Heavenly Parent. We're so grateful for the presence that you're always showing in our lives. We know that these things that are happening in our lives, they happen for a reason. And Heavenly Parent, we want to really seek for the reason and the lessons that you are trying to show us, the ways in which we need to grow our hearts, that we need to grow our spirits and our love to embrace other people who are different than us, or maybe that we have been ignoring. And thank you for this special group of people. Thank you for your love, and I offer this prayer. Our names, Blessed Central Families. Amen and Aji. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Mike.